What's up, everybody? Welcome to CFP Talks. My name is Jonas, and with me, as always, is the illustrious Mr. David Fuchs. David, how are we?
I am good. I am good. I'm it's always fun what's going to come out and what adjective you're going to use. I like that one. It's a good one.
That's a good one. It's a
I
good one.
wasn't sure what you were
I
going to
was
say
thinking about it.
based on I'm rocking the beanie today. I got the snow background. I was like, what is Joe going to possibly say today? It's going to be a good one. It's not
I
just
know
going to,
once I saw the beanie, I was like, I love it.
you're like, there
I
you go.
honestly, I love wearing a beanie, especially when I go and visit my family in Jersey. Like it's beanie on pretty much from the time I wake up to the time I go to bed.
I got it on most of the time. And me too, except, I can't wear it on the way to work because I got my hair,
Yeah.
I get the
Oh,
hat here.
ooh.
Um,
Ooh, look at
but
that. That's impressive that you got hair like that under that hat.
no, no, no,
Doesn't even look flat.
it's actually, yeah, it was actually a lot better there than it usually is. But like, I don't wear it on the way to work. But other than that, if I'm home, I'm at the gym, I got the beanie on.
It's funny because I've been chatting with a lot of people doing a lot of assessments, and two people this week are Penn State alum. And
Really?
we talked about you and both of those. Like, so I was like, hey, my podcast partner is also he's proud Penn State alum.
Very proud, and I'm happy to hear that you got some of them. That I would imagine they'd be pretty good students for you. And that's good to hear. We got a nice footprint across the world.
Yeah, I mean, I like the one thing that I will always say about Penn State, the way that city shuts down on game day is
Yep.
incredible. Just
Yep.
incredible. So let's talk. Woo.
You're
Sorry.
good.
Thank you. Let's talk a little CFP.
Yeah, let's do it.
So it's interesting because I think I've been noticing something where I think the post COVID hangover is officially over.
Oh yeah.
Like I think, this season is really the first season that truly feels like 2019 again, where like people aren't like sitting at home or worried about flying or this or that. And it
Hmm.
seems like life has truly returned back to normal where even offices are starting to get back to normal where people are in. And even if you're on a hybrid schedule, more people are spending time in the office than out of the office. And obviously that makes everybody's life, you know, I don't know if more complicated, but we're more distracted or we have more going on than we did maybe 2 or 3 years ago in COVID.
Hmm.
And the thing that keeps coming up that I keep talking to people about is studying is so hard. It's just so damn hard. Like I can't like carving out the time is hard. Doing all of it is hard. So, you know, I end up doing trying to make up for it on the weekends, or I'm trying to do this technique, or I'm trying to do this tip or trick or hack, or I heard this on, Tim Ferriss's podcast or this podcast, and I'm listening to these learning scientists, and our conversation always kind of comes back to the same thing, which is anytime you're doing something successful, truly successful, it's boring. There is no magic. I've listened to more podcasts than I care to admit. I've read a lot of books. And in one book that I've read, it was like the guy expressed that he was like, some people spend so much time reading books and acquiring knowledge, acquiring knowledge. They never actually do anything with it. At some
Yeah.
point, you got to stop researching and start doing.
Just do. Yeah, exactly.
And I think that a lot of us have a misconception, especially as adults, because now we're out of studying for high school exams or college exams, and now you kind of forget. You're 4, 5, 6 years removed from college. You tend to forget, what that was like. And so, in doing so, you kind of start going, well, let me find the most effective way to study. And in a lot of times, your shortcuts end up leading to a much longer studying because you never learn it right the first way.
Hmm.
And I definitely think that studying, the thing that really dictates your success, that number one thing, that secret weapon is routine. You got to have a routine,
Hmm.
and you have to be respectful and mindful of the time it takes to study. You just don't get to, it's not Grubhub. It's like I don't get to like go on a menu and pick the things that I want to know today and I get to do it. There is a routine to studying, and inside of that routine, it's very boring. There's nothing glamorous about it. It's not fun. It's not exciting. It's very lonely for the most part. However, that's what's going to lead to the success. And I think we all run around and try to find 100 different ways of studying to avoid that hard, lonely thing.
Yeah, and I think the main point that I took from your monologue there is the routine part. You know, I think, and won't even think, I got to be honest with you, like when I have a routine and I have a plan in place, and granted, even if it's the same thing every day, or it's the same like logistics every day, for me at least, I actually don't find that boring. I actually find it to motivate me more because I know I'm actually making progress and I'm moving in the right direction. But I totally understand where it's like if you're doing the same thing every day, like for example, we talk about the gym all the time, right? Or we talk about sports all the time, but let's use the gym for an example. You go in and you're doing the same thing every week. Mondays is chest, Tuesdays is biceps, Thursdays is legs, like whatever it is, and you're doing that every week. Yes, it gets boring. Yes, it gets mundane, but the way that I kind of think about it and the way my mind works is I actually don't find that boring. I actually find that to be I find it to be exciting because I know I'm making progress because of that routine.
Mm.
So and because so that's what motivates me there. But overall, why is studying so hard? If you make it simple and boring, it's actually very easy.
I would say simple, but not easy.
Yeah, I don't mean like learning the topics is
Yeah,
easy, but like doing the actual work and the actual process is simple and easy
correct.
because you don't have to think much. And that's why I was found when I worked with you for when I took the exam, I found it to be so much better than when I did it on my own. And granted, obviously you taught me significantly more than I could have taught myself, but that's a whole nother conversation. The main thing, and I always say this to you, the main thing that I took away from the going through the process with you was we had everything scheduled out. I always knew that I was going to have X, Y, and Z to do today, X, Y, and Z to do tomorrow, which took a lot of stress off of me, which made the process, not learning the material, but made the process
Yeah.
much simpler.
I agree. And I think that everybody, the thing is like when you get a whole bunch of books and you have to do all this reading, the natural inclination is to go, oh my God, this is so much. I want to do everything I can to avoid having to do the hard stuff.
Hmm.
And the thing is that you can't avoid the hard stuff. You have to sit down and read the book. I'm sorry, you have to read it. I'm not saying you got to go and read it 20 times, but you have to at least give yourself a baseline. There are a lot of people that walk into my assessments that say, I didn't read the book. I just went right into the practice questions. Well, how can you go into test something that you've never done before or you've never read before? Or maybe you have a practical or a working knowledge of it, but you don't necessarily have a CFP knowledge of it. And just because you do retirement planning at your job all day, every day, doesn't mean that there isn't something to learn, that there isn't a CFP way of doing things. And, you're taking a CFP board exam, you have to know the way that the CFP board is looking at retirement planning. And that
Yeah.
might be different in your practice. You may not be working with that specific client subset. Maybe your clients demand something different of you, or that's what you provide, but that still doesn't negate the fact that you have to do the reading. And I'm one of those people that I hate reading. So I want to try to do anything to avoid reading. And eventually, in any successful test endeavor, I had to sit down and read the book at least once. At least once I had to go through it. Now, do videos make your life easier? Yes, they do. But it doesn't substitute you reading the material and doing the hard stuff. If I look through a stack of flashcards, I want to rush through it. You're eventually going to have to slow down because
Yeah.
I'm just
No.
saying, like, again, it's that patience is critical. The patience to sit down and do it the right way with effort and to give it the time and attention that it deserves is critical.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before about all the different tools that people have and all the different methods that people think they need to use, and that a lot of times makes it a lot more difficult. We have I don't know if we talked about it probably I don't know within the last month on an episode about the best the best way to go about it, your best strategy can be to just keep it simple. You
Mhm.
know, do this, and this, and then that's it. Like a lot of people use all these different tools, and then they hear people doing all these different things, and they feel like that they're missing out and they're not doing as much as they can. So they start doing all these different things. And if you just that's going to make the process, significantly harder. That's going to stress you out beyond
That's
because
right.
you'll feel like you're going to be behind. Um, and if you just kind of keep it simple, have your plan, go with it, and that's it. You'll find that this process is a lot easier, albeit like this is going to be tough regardless, but it's
Mhm.
going to be easier than you don't have to make it any harder on yourself than it already
Right.
is.
Yeah, I agree.
Um,
And I think, the process is already hard enough. Jumping from study thing to study thing, like, and the people, I watch 18 YouTube videos. Why don't you just read the book?
mhm.
You can, you have that option. Well, it's not work. Well, read it again. The thing is that it's not a glamorous answer. And, a lot of people, "Oh, that's not what I want to hear from you, Joe." But unfortunately, that is the answer that's going to give you the best results is that learning is difficult
Mhm.
and you're going to have to stumble and fumble and bumble a little bit. And that doesn't mean that you're not learning because, if you measure your progress after every single hour that you're studying, sometimes it's going to take multiple hours for you to actually see results. It's going to take
Yeah.
multiple days. It's going to take multiple weeks of you drilling in the same way before it makes sense. And oftentimes we're very quick to give up on it before you even give it a chance to work out. And again, if I put this in a different context, if I went to the gym on Monday and did chest, and then the next week I did chest, and I'm measuring myself and go, workout routine sucks. I did it twice. It's done. Right. It's not really working for me. Well, you got to give it 4 to 6 weeks, maybe even 2 months for it to work out. And then if it's not working out, then maybe you seek an alternative. But if you're not really giving it your all and actually being patient and going slow and taking your time and giving it the effort, knowing that this entire process is delayed gratification.
Yeah, and that's also why it's so difficult specifically for this exam is because it's not going to be a one time you read the material one time or you watch one YouTube video and now all of a sudden you're an expert on estate planning. Like it's going to take time after time after time. You talk about all the time about how how important repetitions are
Yeah.
when it comes to this exam specifically.
Hmm.
So what makes this hard is that it takes a while to learn it, and a lot of people don't have that patience and they don't have that willpower to say, okay, I'm going to read this one time. I am likely not going to learn this the first time I read it. It's going to take a few times for me to learn it. So put those expectations in your head that you're going to read it, you're not going to know anything. You're going to read it a second time, you're going to start to learn and pick up a little more. You may have to read it 5 times before you actually learn it, but
That's right.
how many people are willing to, as you said, delay that gratification and be patient with the process? I feel like more people are not.
That's right. And so
They
you
don't
start
have that
looking,
patience.
yeah, and then that's when you start doing all the weird stuff. Let
Well,
me
that
get some quick, yeah,
or just straight up saying, "Fuck it, I'm done. I don't. I
yeah.
give up."
Or just going into practice questions and going, fuck it, I'm going to learn from the practice questions.
Or
Right.
that, right? And
Right.
then at that point, you're not. We talked about it on the last few episodes. That's not the most efficient way to study. So
All right.
that's what makes, in my opinion, another reason why this test is so hard to study for is because you not only have to have a lot of attention to detail, a lot of discipline, you have to be smart because this is very tough material, but you have to have a lot of patience with this material. And if you don't, it's going to be really tough. And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up.
Well, and I think that's actually it because I know a lot of smart people. You know, a lot of smart people that take this exam and fail.
Hmm.
Because to me, this is more of an exam of patience and discipline than it
Hmm.
is an exam of intelligence.
Yeah.
And I think people go in with the understanding like, oh my God, I read this piece of the material. This is so good to know. Like, I can't believe I didn't know it. But then you don't necessarily know what to do with it yet. And so when a question asks you about a specific iteration of the question and you just read it and you're going broad strokes, like I'll give you an example. I remember learning estate planning and learning in what like an ABC trusts were. And I remember looking at the diagram and thinking, oh my God, like I can't believe that more people don't know about this. And thinking to myself, like, I can't believe now I get this piece of knowledge that most people didn't have and I get to use it. But when then I get questioned on it, I was like, oh, wait, I don't know it as well as I thought I did. And then every time that I would go back and reread it, I get a little bit more. Okay. Then I go back
Right.
and do a question. Okay, I did better on this one, but I still don't really understand this. I go back to the read. That sucks. It's an iterative process. It takes time. You're going to have to go back to that. And there are times, I'll tell you, when I was studying for CFP or CFA, where I felt like I just read the same page 6 times,
Oh, I did that so many times.
right? Where I go to a question, I'm like, oh man, I still don't know. Like, did it say this or this? And I would go back and reread it. And then eventually that starts to set in, but you don't get to choose when it sets in, unfortunately. And just because you went through it 2 times or 3 times doesn't mean, okay, you went through it 2 or 3 times, you're a stud for being so disciplined. It doesn't work that way. You'll retain it when you retain it. You don't get to make that choice.
Yeah.
And there's going to be, and the frustrating part of it, David, is parts of it you're going to retain like that. It'll just make sense. It'll click. You'll read the right sentence at the right time. It's beautiful. It just, you're sitting there going, I don't understand why I struggled with this for so long. It makes so much sense.
Hmm.
And there's certain things that are going to take you 12 times. Like, why can't I just understand? This is so simple. Why don't I get CAPM? Oh my God, like calculating R or DDM or doing or understanding RMDs and when an RMD has to be distributed. The things that might on the surface seemingly be simple, and even maybe for some of your classmates are very simple, doesn't mean that it's going to be simple for you.
Hmm.
So I think the takeaway here is the reason why studying is hard has nothing to do with the material. It
Yeah.
has to do with how you approach the material and how you create this plan for yourself and if you're setting yourself up for success. Setting yourself up for success is not studying 1 hour on a Monday and 12 hours on a Saturday. You don't leave time for that repetition. Repetition is done by number of days studied, not by number of hours studied. And I think that is a big takeaway for a lot of us.
Yosef. Yosef the philosopher.
Take that. Take that. That's it. This is why my mother named me Joseph. I'm like the dude in with the Technicolor Dreamcoat. So we hope that you enjoyed this episode. As always, with any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to reach out to David or myself. Please make sure that you like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can continue bringing you more great CFP content. And we will see you guys on our next episode.